Michael Jordan pushed the last dance. The theory says Jordan watched the media crown LeBron after that 2016 comeback and decided it was time to remind the world who built the throne in the first place. After LeBron led Cleveland from down 3-1 to beat the Warriors, the GOAT chatter exploded. People weren't just tossing out his name, they were planting a flag. And right around that time, Jordan reportedly hit up ESPN and said, "Let's do it." That wasn't some random choice. The timing was sharp. Jordan said yes to the documentary the same year LeBron had that title run. That's not subtle. It's like a chess move from a guy who'd already won the game. The Last Dance wasn't just about basketball nostalgia. It was a straight-up power play. 10 episodes, full-throttle Jordan mythology. 6 titles, legendary drive, insane impact. Everything about it screamed, remember who started this. NBA stars like Ja Morant even said it flipped their pick in the GOAT debate, and a bunch of analysts agreed. The show gave Jordan back the spotlight at the exact moment LeBron was gaining steam. Media outlets even said Jordan felt the pressure. He saw the shift and responded by rolling out his legacy like a cinematic mic drop. Fans took it further, claiming the documentary was a calculated response to LeBron's finals win. They saw Jordan trying to freeze the narrative, make sure the spotlight circled back. The idea is wild, but the timing? It's too perfect. Jordan waited, then he struck, and he didn't whisper. He dropped 10 full hours of GOAT-level storytelling. Paul Pierce. Wheelchair game was a publicity stunt. The theory claims Pierce's 2-minute wheelchair exit during the 2008 finals wasn't about an injury, it was theater. He hit the floor grabbing his knee, looked finished, then reappeared minutes later like nothing happened and started drilling threes. That whiplash moment has had fans raising eyebrows for years. People have floated a far less heroic explanation. He needed the bathroom. That's right. Some say he used the wheelchair to hide an accident. In 2019, Pierce joked on live television that he just had to go to the bathroom. When pressed if it was number 1 or number 2, he said something went down. That joke lit up the internet. Analysts teased him. Fans went full detective mode. Then there's the visual evidence. A dark stain on his shorts in later footage was waved around like a smoking gun. Turns out that clip was from a different game, but that didn't stop believers. One Reddit user said Pierce needed a clean getaway and left in his own shorts disaster. Subtle? Not really. Memorable? Definitely. Now mix that with the fact that this whole sequence, injury, wheelchair, return, MVP, is gold for rating. It's a hero arc that the league loves. It kept eyeballs glued to screens and gave Boston a finals moment for the ages. And right when the buzz peaked, Pierce walked it back. He tweeted that people were mad he beat the Lakers and claimed the joke wasn't real, but the damage was done. The mystery only deepened. The theory says the wheelchair wasn't medical, it was strategic. Bathroom blunder, dramatic exit, and comeback glory all wrapped into one weird, unforgettable finals moment. Lou Williams needed his first shot. The theory here's simple. If Lou saw his first shot go in, the rest of the night usually turned into a highlight reel. But if that first one rimmed out, the numbers took a nosedive. When he played for Houston in 2017, the split was wild. If he hit the first shot in those regular season games, he averaged 19.4 points on 51% shooting. Miss it, that dropped to 12.3 points on just over 32%. That's a 7-point swing, just off one early possession. The playoffs told the same story. First shot went in, almost 19 points a game, missed it, barely 12. The shooting percentage gap there was even wider, over 20 points. That's not a tiny mental hiccup. That's a full-on rhythm meltdown. People actually ran the numbers. Confidence intervals, sample size checks, all the stuff nerds love, and it held up. One fan even laid it out in a spreadsheet, claiming the theory wasn't just a hunch, it was proven. And looking at the pattern across regular season and playoffs, it's hard to argue. It wasn't just a random hot or cold night. This looked like a full system reset based on one bucket. Lou wasn't just streaky, he was totally tethered to how the game started. That first make flipped a switch, miss it, and he'd be chucking bricks. The difference wasn't subtle either. We're talking 6 to 7 extra points and a 20-point field goal swing. So yeah, based on this data, Lou Williams played like his whole game was built around that opening shot falling through the net. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Zion Williamson was rushed back in 2020 under NBA pressure to boost ratings. The theory starts with how the season was set up. Before it even began, the NBA locked in 11 of the Pelicans' first 20 games for national television. That's a massive spotlight for a rookie. Then came the setback. Zion had knee surgery in October and missed 44 games. Suddenly, all those primetime games looked like empty promises. But in late January, Zion made his debut. He dropped 22 points in just under 18 minutes, including a stretch of 17 straight. It was electric, but he was also on a strict minutes cap, which raised question. If he was healthy enough to dominate like that, why limit him so heavily? According to the theory, the league felt the pressure. Ratings had dipped. The Anthony Davis trade left New Orleans with one real draw, Zion. So when networks started getting antsy, the NBA allegedly leaned on the Pelicans to bring him back. His return lined up perfectly with another round of national broadcasts. And sure enough, the buzz returned. Viewership jumped, merchandise moved, and the Pelicans suddenly looked like a playoff threat heading into the bubble. But what followed added fuel. Zion struggled with injuries ever since. From hamstrings to conditioning issues, he's missed long stretches every single season. Believers in the theory think this all traces back to that rush debut, pushed out too early to save the league's narrative and protect broadcast numbers. So the theory holds that his first game back wasn't about basketball readiness. It was a move built for cameras and headlines, not long-term health. The timing, the return, and everything that followed still keep this theory burning. Mike Scott was driven away from DC by government buildings. The theory paints Mike Scott as more than just a stretch forward. It turns him into a man who couldn't stomach cruising past federal landmarks. It starts with his known beliefs. Back in 2018, a Washington Post article called him a locker room favorite, but also highlighted that he openly believed the government was hiding UFOs. That label, conspiracy theorist, has followed him ever since. From there, fans started tying dots that may or may not exist. His time in Washington ended after the 2020 to 2021 season, and while his exit looked standard, contract up, free agency move, the theory claims otherwise. Some believe his second stint with the Wizards ended because he hated the daily drive past DC's endless parade of agencies, departments, and monuments. Supporters of the theory argue that for someone deeply skeptical of government transparency, being surrounded by federal buildings every day might have felt like being inside the belly of the beast. It wasn't just traffic, they say, it was tension. The belief is that he didn't vibe with that environment, and when the season wrapped, he chose not to return. Instead, he moved on, briefly signing with New Orleans. There's also the timing. Right after leaving Washington, he didn't land another long-term NBA contract. That's only helped fuel speculation that he opted out of the DC scene entirely. And with no direct quote from Scott shutting down the claim, the mystery hangs. To believers, his well-known distrust of federal secrecy makes this departure feel less like a routine contract expiration and more like a quiet escape. Buddy Hield cycle. It kicks off the same way every time. He gets traded or earns a starting role and fans get fired up. In July of 2024, he landed with Golden State, slid right into major minutes, and by October, he was dropping over 21 points a night while hitting about 50% from three. It looked like a steal. Then the fan buzz starts. Why isn't he playing more? The shooting numbers are elite, and the online hype machine starts pushing for more minutes. But right after that heat check phase, the usual cracks show. His defense, still shaky. Analysts call him streaky and point to tunnel vision. And then Steve Kerr chimes in. He loves the spacing, but says Hield's pressing too much and losing rhythm. That's where the pattern turns. He gets pulled late in games. Bench minutes increase. Suddenly he's not closing tight contests. And by the All-Star break, he's in that weird middle ground. Dangerous on a hot night, but unreliable when the team needs a stop. Then it resets. New season, new hope, same cycle. Fans and analysts keep pointing to the data. His percentages spike early, then settle back around 37% from 3 and 41% overall. His role shrinks. Media call it the Buddy Hield prop. Draymond's even snapped at him for mental lapses in clutch time. The theory says it's not just coincidence. It's a loop, high start, fan frenzy, defensive exposure, reduced minutes, rinse and repeat. The pattern plays out in full view, and every time, someone thinks it'll be different, then it's not. Doc Rivers is protected by the NBA machine. The theory builds off one obvious pattern. Rivers keeps landing high-profile coaching gigs, no matter the playoff outcomes. Since that title in Boston, way back in 2008, he's bounced from the Celtics to the Clippers, then the Sixers, and now the Bucks. That's 4 major franchises without ever really disappearing from the coaching scene. Supporters of the theory say his survival isn't just about coaching. It's image, media, and connections. He's polished on the mic, knows how to work a press conference, and stays in the media spotlight. Between coaching jobs, he was on ESPN and ABC broadcast, keeping his face and voice in the conversation. He's also deeply tied into the league's inner circle. As senior vice president of basketball operations and a big name in the NBA Coaches Association, he's right there beside league initiatives. From voter campaigns to social issues, Rivers is constantly aligned with the NBA's public stance. Then there's the player angle. he's loved by veterans. Guys like J.J. Redick and DeAndre Jordan have vouched for him. That's kept his locker room steady and front offices calm. Teams trust him with stars, even when the results don't follow. And the results? That's the fuel for the theory. He's blown multiple 3-1 series leads. Fans and former players, like Marcin Gortat, have questioned his adjustments and postseason planning. Yet every time he flames out, another team hires him. The theory says Rivers has an immunity other coaches don't. His connections, persona, and league-aligned reputation create a kind of force field. His playoff record might sag, but the NBA keeps handing him keys to championship rosters. The machine keeps moving, and Doc stays in the driver's seat. 2005 NBA draft was rigged for the Bucks to land a new star big man. The theory centers on the belief that Milwaukee, stuck in post-Kareem irrelevance, was handed the #1 pick to solve a glaring hole. Since Kareem left in the 1980s, the Bucks hadn't had a true franchise big man. That changed in 2005 when they landed the top pick and took Andrew Bogut, a 7-foot Australian who had just averaged over 17 points and 10 rebounds in college and was named National Player of the Year. Here's where it gets suspicious. The Bucks only had a 6.3% chance of getting that top spot. That low probability jump immediately sparked theories. And this wasn't an isolated incident. Fans link it to a longer history of lottery oddities. The Knicks in 1985, the Cavaliers in 2003, and the Hornets in 2012, all viewed as convenient results that helped the league storylines. Milwaukee was floundering. They needed a star. Bogut checked every box. The theory says the NBA saw an opportunity to revive a fading franchise by placing a marketable big man right in the middle of the Midwest. It gave the team new life, gave fans hope, and gave the league a fresh narrative to push. Even though the lottery now uses ping pong balls and outside auditing, believers argue that subtle manipulation is still possible. Not blatant fixing, just enough nudging. The odds, the need, and the reward all aligned too perfectly. So for conspiracy theorists, Milwaukee's leap to the top wasn't luck. It was a move made to reignite a franchise and protect the league's broader business play. Nico Harrison is a strategic NBA plan. It starts with the resume. Harrison spent 19 years at Nike, but had zero front office experience before the Mavericks handed him both the general manager and president of basketball operations roles. In June of 2021, no scouting background, no team building apprenticeship, just a clean leap from sneakers to strategy. Then came the chaos. First, he traded for Kyrie Irving in the middle of the 2023 season. That move exploded on every sports platform, and it paid off when Dallas made the finals in 2024. But in February of 2025, Harrison detonated the Luca era, trading him to the Lakers for Anthony Davis and picks. That wasn't just a move, it was a ratings earthquake. Next came the lottery. With just 1.8% odds, Dallas landed the #1 pick and drafted Cooper Flagg. The whole thing played out like a wrestling storyline. Trade your franchise player, win the lottery, reload with a generational prospect. The theory says this isn't strategy, it's theater. Inside the organization, things got messy. Harrison reportedly fired staff by video call, froze out dissenters, and made major calls without Jason Kidd's input. Coaches resented it, staff turned over. But from the outside, it looked like headline gold. And then there's the coverage. Every time Harrison makes a move, it dominates the media cycle. He's built for virality. Big names, big moves, big backlash. Fans protested, demanded he be fired, even sent threats. But Mark Cuban stood behind him. No suspension, no demotion. The theory says he's not a traditional executive, he's the league's chaos agent. High drama, maximum engagement, and somehow always insulated. Solomon Hill was planted to halt LeBron's prime. March 20th, 2021. LeBron James, then 36, and playing at an MVP level, went down hard after a dive by Solomon Hill. It wasn't just a bad fall. Hill crashed into LeBron's ankle, and the result was a high ankle sprain. That injury knocked LeBron out and triggered the beginning of a slower, more injury-prone stretch in his career. Now here's where things spiral. Solomon Hill wasn't a rotation staple. He averaged around 5 minutes and 2 points per game that season. Fans saw the collision as reckless, an out-of-character dive by a guy who wasn't really making impact plays. Teammates like Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder didn't hold back. They called it unnecessary, said Hill took LeBron's leg out. That tone sparked a wave of theories online. Fans started calling Hill an agent of destruction. Some suggested the league or certain teams wanted LeBron off the board. After all, this was late prime LeBron, still explosive, still feared, and leading a dangerous Lakers team. Take him out, and the playoff picture shifts. The aftermath gave believers ammo. LeBron's mobility dropped, his defense slipped. He started getting hurt more often, and all that started right after that one hit. Fans pointed to the suspicious timing, the uncharacteristic dive, and the contrast between LeBron's dominance before the injury and his gradual decline afterward. The theory says Hill wasn't just chasing a loose ball, he was there to break the rhythm, a fringe player creating franchise-altering chaos, just in time to reset the title race. The play, the reactions, and the fallout all keep the suspicion alive. Adam Silver targeted the Sixers to derail the process. That's the core of the theory, and it starts back in 2015. At that point, the Sixers were deep into their tank-driven rebuild. Attendance was dropping, and critics said the team was dragging down the league's image. That's when Adam Silver reportedly stepped in. He helped install Jerry Colangelo as a special advisor, an outside move meant to push Sam Hinkie out. Joel Embiid even later said it felt like a full-on intervention. From there, the theory connects Silver's anti-tanking agenda with a specific piece of strategic sabotage, the delay of the so-called double draft. For years, Silver talked about reversing the one-and-done rule, letting players go straight from high school again. By 2018, the timeline pointed toward a change happening around 2021 or 2022. That lined up with the draft the Sixers were watching closely, especially since they owned Miami's unprotected pick. Then Jimmy Butler made Miami competitive. The pick dropped in value, and the rule change suddenly didn't arrive on schedule. The theory says this wasn't a coincidence. Fans believe the NBA delayed the rule change to hurt Philly, letting them give up the pick thinking it would be high, only to shift the talent explosion to a future draft after that pick was gone. Silver's public push against tanking only adds weight. He supported lottery changes, publicly criticized losing strategies, and clearly saw the process as a problem. The timeline of rule proposals, draft delays, and Sixers asset movement is what fuels the suspicion. Put simply, believers think Silver didn't just hate tanking, he used league policy to dismantle the Sixers' rebuild. From Hinkie's forced exit to the manipulated draft environment, the theory says Philly was targeted to set an example. NBA keeps a secret blackball list. This theory focuses on players whose careers nosedived after public dissent, off-court activism, or image clashes with the league's carefully polished brand. Start with Mohamed Abdul-Rauf. Back in 1996, he refused to stand for the anthem, calling the flag a symbol of oppression. The league suspended him, and though he returned with a compromise, praying silently during the anthem, his career took a sharp downturn. He was traded that same year, and by 1999, he was out of the NBA completely. He says outright he was blackballed. Then there's Craig Hodges, a two-time three-point champion and member of the early 90s Bulls. He wore a dashiki to the White House and handed a letter to the president calling for racial justice. That was in 1991. He never played in the NBA again after 1992. For many, that's no coincidence. Enes Kanter is another modern example. He's been an outspoken critic of Turkey's president, and many believe his international political stance cost him his NBA standing. Despite being a productive player in recent years, he was waived and left unsigned. Fans say the league's business ties with Turkey may have played a role. Allen Iverson's case is murkier. He didn't take political stands, but his image, tattoos, cornrows, was disruptive for a league trying to clean up its look. His late career fade seemed too fast for someone that iconic. Fans wonder if the league was done with his brand. Supporters of the theory point to timing. Players who speak out about race, power, or governments tend to vanish fast. No scandal, just no more contracts. No press releases, just silence. And over time, it's looked like a pattern. I'm also going to do a full video on blackballed players soon, so you can sub if you want to see that. Thanks. Anyways, Luca to Dallas. That's the theory, and it starts with Dirk Nowitzki. By 2018, Dirk was entering his final NBA season after over 2 decades. As the face of the Mavericks and one of the league's most beloved international stars, the NBA needed a plan to maintain European fan engagement and keep Dallas relevant. Enter Luca. That draft night, Atlanta selected Luca with the 3rd pick, but within minutes, Dallas executed a trade to acquire him, swapping for the 5th pick and a future first-rounder. The theory says this wasn't just a smart basketball deal, it was orchestrated. According to believers, Adam Silver and the league saw an opportunity, replace one European icon with another and secure a seamless transition of international stardom. Luca was already a EuroLeague champion and MVP. His resume was stronger than any international prospect since Pau Gasol. His playstyle mirrored the modern NBA direction, and his marketability had global appeal. The theory claims the league nudged Dallas and Atlanta behind the scenes to ensure Luca ended up where Dirk had built his legacy, a smooth handoff of the European torch. Supporters also point to timing. Dirk announced his retirement shortly after Luca's debut season. The NBA didn't want a vacuum. They wanted continuity. Luca's arrival in Dallas gave the franchise instant identity and gave the league another European megastar, tied to a stable, mid-market team with an established international brand. The trade, the timing, and the narrative symmetry all keep the theory alive. One star leaves, another arrives, and the league never skips a beat. NBA suppressed the Boston Celtics in the early 1990s. It's built around the idea that the league had grown tired of Boston's dominance and was ready to usher in a new era without Red Auerbach calling the shots. By 1986, the Celtics had collected 16 championships, with Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, and Red running the show. But as those legends aged out, the league's attention shifted toward flashier teams like the Bulls, the Magic, and the Knicks. Red Auerbach didn't exactly help smooth things over. He famously said, "The league couldn't wait to shove it to us," accusing NBA leadership of being quick to turn their back on Boston. After ownership changes in the late 1980s, Auerbach lost power within the organization, and the theory says the NBA took that opportunity to move away from the old guard. Then came the draft lottery letdowns. Despite several bottom-tier finishes throughout the late 1980s and early 1990s, the Celtics never landed a number one pick. Believers argue this wasn't just bad luck. It was a deliberate move to keep Boston from rebuilding. Instead, lottery wins were steered toward newer, more marketable teams in bigger television markets. Larry Bird later added fuel, saying that David Stern wanted a Game 7 during the 1984 finals for the money. That admission suggested even Bird believed the league prioritized profit over fairness. So the theory says the Celtics weren't just victims of a rough rebuild, it was league-managed decline. Red got iced out, draft odds failed repeatedly, and the NBA pushed the spotlight elsewhere. The timing, the quotes, and the silence all keep the theory alive. Sonics were stolen. Clay Bennett bought the Seattle Supersonics in 2006 with a very public promise to try and keep the team in Seattle. Then almost immediately, he got caught in private emails saying the quiet part loud. They never planned to stay. Bennett and his partner, Aubrey McClendon, were already hoping to bring the team to Oklahoma City. McClendon even bragged about it publicly and ended up fined $250,000 by the league for doing exactly that. Then there was the vote, 28-2. That's how NBA owners lined up to approve the move in 2008. Only Dallas and Portland pushed back. Commissioner David Stern backed the relocation hard, pointing fingers at Seattle's arena and ignoring a real arena plan led by Steve Ballmer. Then Howard Schultz sued Bennett, saying he was lied to and manipulated, and the leaked emails made that case look solid. But out of nowhere, the lawsuit vanished. The NBA said Schultz had signed something stopping him from suing, and that was it. It was over. Oklahoma City somehow pulled together $120 million in public renovations almost instantly. Meanwhile, Seattle voters rejected funding, which didn't help. But then things got shady. Reports showed private calls, behind-the-scenes meetings, and even jet rides between officials. Stern wasn't subtle about his support, brushing off Seattle's objections and pressuring the mayor and a senator. The email, the timing, the one-sided public funding, the aggressive backing from the league, all of it created the belief that this wasn't just a normal move. It felt aligned, like the whole thing had been lined up behind the scenes from day one, with Seattle never having a real shot at keeping their team. Celtics blocked the Spurs. Boston sent Porzingis to Atlanta, and instead of getting a decent haul, they took George Niang and a second-round pick. That's one of the league's most skilled big men swapped for spare parts. It looked like a salary dump, but some think it was way more than that. Atlanta just got better, and that could mean their draft picks, owned by San Antonio, get a whole lot worse. The Spurs have Atlanta's unprotected first-round picks in 2025 and 2027, plus a pick swap in 2026. And they already stacked their roster with young talent, including back-to-back Rookies of the Year and a top draft slot this summer. They've got Wembanyama and a war chest of future stars lined up, unless those Hawks picks get pulled out from under them. Here's where it gets clever. If Atlanta plays just well enough, those Spurs picks slip out of lottery range. Mid-first rounders are still valuable, but not franchise changers. So boosting the Hawks now is a long-term block, and Boston's front office is known for this kind of move, playing a quiet long game with cap space, future picks, and contract control. Fans spotted the weak return, then connected the dots. The Hawks got stronger. The Spurs draft haul suddenly got weaker. And the team behind it all, the Celtics, who didn't need to make a flashy trade, they just needed to keep San Antonio from building a monster around Wembanyama. It's quiet, defense at the front office level. And if this theory's right, Boston didn't just save money, they might have saved the league from another super team. Hardens MVP was delayed. Back in 2016 to 17, James Harden had stats that jumped off the page. Around 29 points, 11 assists, and 8 rebounds per game. And his Rockets, 55 wins. But somehow, the award went to Russell Westbrook, whose team finished 6th in the West with 47 wins. Sure, he averaged a triple-double, but the conversation shifted away from impact and toward spectacle. Harden supporters said the media ran with the Westbrook narrative and never looked back. That's where the theory starts. Harden said it himself. They ran with the story. And in that season, the league had a perfect one. Westbrook bouncing back after Kevin Durant left him. It was emotional, dramatic, and heavily covered. The triple-double thing was rare, but plenty of analysts pointed out that Harden had just as strong a case, if not better. Now fast forward to 2017 to 18, Harden levels up again. 30 points a game, elite efficiency, and the Rockets top the league. Suddenly, it's his moment. He wins MVP, but now it feels too tidy. The league had already kept fans hooked through Westbrook's arc, and now they get the payoff of Harden's long-awaited recognition, right when the Rockets are going toe-to-toe with the Warriors. Marketing-wise, it works perfectly. 2 seasons, 2 heroes, 2 storylines. Harden might have deserved it the year before, but spacing it out made the league's product richer. The timing fed ratings, jersey sales, and endless talk shows. There's no smoking gun here, just a trail of perfect coincidences, enough for fans to believe the NBA stretched out the drama to keep people watching. And if that's true, it worked. NBA sold Ricky Rubio as the next Pistol Pete. Back in 2008, Rubio caught fire during the Beijing Olympics. He was 17 and already making no-look passes and flashy plays that had scouts tripping over each other with Pistol Pete comparisons. It didn't stop there. By 2009, he was showing up in global commercials before he even stepped on an NBA floor. Alongside Derek Jeter, Roger Federer, and Tiger Woods. That's not marketing, that's a coronation. And it all felt very coordinated. The Spanish Pistol, Pete nickname, didn't come from nowhere. It showed up in pre-draft breakdowns, scouting reports, and YouTube reels. The highlights focused on flair over substance. Behind the back passes, circus assists. Everything short of dressing him in Maravich's jersey. The Timberwolves took him 5th overall. Not a coincidence. That pick fit right into the league's push to turn Rubio into a global ambassador. He had the face, the passes, and the Olympic resume, just not the jumper. Rubio didn't even show up until 2011. He stayed in Spone, contract drama and all. And once he got here, it was rough. Great passer, no doubt. But the guy couldn't shoot. His effective field goal percentage hovered around 40%. And when his rookie year finally had momentum, boom, major ACL tear. That whole carefully built Pistol Pete revival script just evaporated. But the signs were all there. Too much branding, too soon. Too many pre-league promotions. The media, the commercials, the draft slot, it didn't feel like hype. It felt like product rollout. When the performance didn't match, fans started wondering if the NBA created a story they couldn't finish. It looked like an experiment in nostalgia-fueled marketing that fizzled. Blazers hid Roy's medical truth. Brandon Roy's knees were falling apart, and that wasn't a mystery. He had no cartilage in either one. That's bone on bone. He even admitted it himself. Doctors warned him. This was serious, but the Blazers kept rolling him out there. Publicly, they brushed it off as soreness or routine maintenance. Meanwhile, his knees were collapsing. By 2010, Roy was already getting surgeries. In January 2011, he had both knees scoped, but the Blazers stayed upbeat, painting a picture of hope and recovery. Then, right at the start of the next season, he retires, just like that, at 27. Said his knees couldn't take it anymore. So how did it go from optimism to out of the league? In under a year. That's where the theory picks up steam. The timeline is messy. Surgeries, pain, a comeback, and then poof, gone. No big warning, just sudden retirement. And yet behind the scenes, the damage was obvious. That makes people think the Blazers knew how bad it was but kept that part quiet. No lawsuits, no leaks, but the messaging was always soft, always protective. Roy wasn't just a player, he was the franchise's face. And ticket sales and TV deals. The theory says the Blazers shielded the full story. They kept the public focused on short-term hope, while the medical truth got buried under vague quotes and upbeat updates. Not because they didn't believe him, but because the brand mattered more. The money mattered more. And by the time they couldn't cover it anymore, Roy's knees had already ended his career. The story never matched the reality. That's why the theory still lingers. Uncle Dennis Blacklist, back in 2019, when Kawhi Leonard hit free agency, things got weird. Teams weren't just talking contract numbers. They were dealing with Dennis Robertson, better known as Uncle Dennis, and his long list of extras. We're talking private planes, luxury housing, guaranteed endorsement deals, even whispers of part ownership. That's way beyond standard negotiation. And those kinds of demands, straight up violations under league rules. So the NBA launched an investigation. No fines, no suspensions. But the probe itself sent a message. It meant teams were rattled enough to push the league for answers. And even without penalties, that kind of scrutiny doesn't go unnoticed. From that point on, the image of Uncle Dennis shifted from behind-the-scenes advisor to league-wide red flag. Executives started speaking anonymously, calling him hard to deal with. Masai Ujiri, the Raptors' general manager, publicly questioned how serious Kawhi's camp really was about staying. The Lakers reportedly walked away entirely, and all of this was just the sequel to what went down in San Antonio. Uncle Dennis was already clashing with Spurs leadership over medical decisions and rehab control. Even Bruce Bowen called him out for giving Kawhi bad advice. After all that, teams quietly stopped working with him directly. Not a formal ban, but a pattern, only talking through Kawhi's official agent, avoiding Dennis completely. He didn't disappear, he just became the guy nobody wanted to deal with. So here's the theory. Uncle Dennis got himself blacklisted, unofficially, not because of one thing, but because of all of it. Impossible demands, uncomfortable negotiations, and a history of control moves that left front offices spooked. There's no league memo, but you won't find many GMs dialing his number anymore. NBA extended the 2016 finals. When Cleveland fell behind 3-1, the next 2 games exploded in viewership. Game 6 pulled over 20 million eyes, and Game 7 peaked at 31 million. That is not a theory. That is ratings math, and it is the fuel behind claims that the league had every incentive to stretch the series as far as it could go. Game 6 was chaos. Golden State coach Steve Kerr called the officiating ridiculous. Steph Curry fouled out 6 calls, and at least half were shaky. He tossed his mouth guard, got ejected, and it all boiled over. Even neutral fans thought the whistles felt tight. The Warriors did not hold back either. Kerr and the players went public with their frustration, saying it did not feel like a fair fight. Then came the audio. Normally, referee mic feeds are available in some form, clean, edited, or bleeped. But in this case, silence. No confirmed footage, no post-game audio. That is where the theory picks up steam. Fans claim the NBA held it back. The league never confirmed anything, but the absence of that audio only made people talk more. Add in fan threads, full of testimonies about off-ball fouls and strange no-calls, and it felt like the officiating had a different set of rules that night. No official ever said it was rigged, no documents leaked. But the officiating was suspect. The timing was perfect, and the result? A Game 7 classic that delivered monster ratings. The NBA got exactly what it needed. Whether that is coincidence or coordination, that is the part fans still argue about. But one thing is certain. Game 6 never stopped feeling off. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.